Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 684 with a review of Titane. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a streaming platform near you. Titane is a film that we have tried to see at a few festivals this year, and now it is finally available basically on premium VOD everywhere. Actually, I don't even think it's premium VOD. I feel like it was only $6 to rent this one. I could be misremembering. But this is a film that everybody can see now. We didn't see it at the festivals. Steven saw it a few weeks back in theaters, but since it's out, we thought we'd talk about it. Do you want to talk a little bit about the praise that's been coming out of the festivals for this film?
Yeah, I mean, I should say this was not a Parasite, in that when Parasite won the Palm, everyone united in a manner of, thank God, the best movie won the Palme d'Or. This is exciting. When Cannes was happening this year, everyone was kind of talking about what do they think is going to win? What do they think is going to win? And Titane was kind of it was like, what if Titane wins? And like that caught hold and people started rooting for it, but not in a, this is obviously the greatest movie, the end, but more, this is such a polarizing jolt of something. This would be like props to the jury if this is what they choose to elevate. So right away, like when it happened, I wasn't necessarily sold that I would adore Titane. What I was sold is that this is an experience that is unforgettable and I need to experience it for myself. After the festival circuit, they kind of did there was like the shock narrative that I'm never a big fan of, where they're like, people passed out at their Toronto screening and they needed to be taken away by ambulance, or this movie will just, you don't know what you're in for, you're not ready for it. And I hate that shit. Like, I just don't think any movie can make good on that. So I tuned all that out.
But were you ready for it though, Stephen?
No, but I was fine. Like, I wasn't not fine as I ate my, Alamo Drafthouse Bavarian pizza with mustard sauce.
As I watched this film, all I could think about was you eating pizza during it and just going, nope.
Yeah, maybe my head was in a weird place. But anyway, I don't want to dip into the review too much on accident. All I want to say is the narrative coming out of Cannes was there were people like the David Ehrlichs of the world who were like, hell yeah, Titane. Shit, that's amazing. And there were detractors too, but even the detractors were like, okay, it's a pretty rad move for them to award this the big the big award.
Like everybody just slow clapping on the internet.
Yeah, that was kind of the discourse. And then when it hit Toronto, there started to be more praise around it, but still praise around the like shock value aspect of it. Not so much about like, this is a heartbreaking work of genius, So yeah. I kind of had no idea what to expect. All I knew is this is a movie that I had to see. And I finally ventured out with my first Alamo Drafthouse experience in a year and a half. So I could watch this movie, eat a pizza, and then return back to my COVID hiding place.
And then sit in the corner rocking back and forth with your thumb in your mouth as you try to deal with everything you watched.
Yep.
Cool. Well, are you excited to talk about it, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm so curious how you will feel about this movie. That is honestly the only reason I'm interested in recording an episode about it. Is I want to know what this movie did to you.
Yeah, I could definitely tell you all about the faces I was making it while watching it, and every time Jamie looked up and saw me, just like shaking my head and going, mm-mm, mm-mm,
yeah.
Mm-mm.
I was gonna say before you did that where your face is,
All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and play the non-English trailer for this film, and then when it comes back, we're just gonna get all up in it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that was a trailer for Titane, and it is a story of a young woman who is a dancer at car shows, and puts herself in a series of situations in which she needs to hide out and assume the identity of somebody else. And this is sort of the story of where that identity assumption takes her. Is that an okay explanation of the story?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies that I don't know how we talk about it without spoiling it, and also I don't know how we talk about it if we spoil
it. Well, why don't you at least start us off by trying to talk about it, and let us know what you thought of Titane, Stephen.
Okay. Titane was a very visceral experience for me. I would say it was a very unique experience, and it was billed sort of kind of as a horror movie. I mean, the director, Julia Ducournau, did Raw, which we both saw at a draft house. I recall eating while watching that too, to varying successes.
I believe our server warned us about eating while watching the movie too.
Yep. And Raw was more of a traditional horror movie. I don't know how to draw the difference between what makes that more of a horror and this more of something else. What this movie was to me is a provocation. This movie was a series of very provocative visuals, a story that is blurring lines so we don't know what to believe about certain characters. It is trying to make us uncomfortable. It's trying to make us cringe, but also put us in this awkward in-between space between like empathizing with a character and being revolted by a character. And I think ultimately it's like a body horror movie. It's a movie that is like the being a person is hard and disgusting and life is so I don't know how to explain what this movie does, but it's all very jarring and poking you in the eye again and again and again. And I would not call what I felt loving this movie. Like, I don't know, people have talked about this movie in a way where it resonated for them, like especially people who have like different sexual orientations or different gender identities and stuff like that talk about how it resonates as this notion of like, how are you seen? Who are you? How do you relate to your body? And like, there's a deeper thing here that the movie is wrestling with that I can see, but I don't feel on a personal level. And what I feel is just the shock and awe of a movie that is trying to provoke different feelings in me, like revulsion and excitement and cringe and a desire to look away. And I don't know how to rate that.
Yeah.
Other than saying, I think this did a very, very good job at this, and I cannot imagine seeing it in any setting but a packed crowd with people audibly reacting to the movie while I was audibly reacting to it.
Yeah.
I think it was very, very well done movie that is not the type of movie I normally love. And that is my non-spoilery thought on it.
Yeah, so do you want to take a guess at what I thought of the film and why I thought that of the film?
Would the why be a spoiler?
I'll try to talk about it in as little spoilerness as I can.
Like what I'm gonna say is, you did not like this movie because the fundamental premise of who a character is believed to be could not possibly be believed, and that made you not like the movie.
Steven knows me so well.
Hell yeah.
Because there is, like, by the end of the film, there is interesting things that are happening, interesting play between the characters who are interacting and the roles they choose to play for each other and the feelings they may or may not have for one another. Like, there is something that this film is doing that is incredibly interesting, and obviously visually this film is just freaking off the charts, ridiculous, shocking, grotesque, beautiful. It's like any adjective you can throw out, this film has got it in spades, and it's kind of rad for that. I found a difficult time sitting at home watching this on an iPad.
Yeah.
Trusting this ever could happen. Like there's a lot of jumps that I have to make that are not just, could somebody convincingly pull off this idea in a situation, but could they maintain this charade for so long, right?
Yeah.
Like I just didn't buy the premise at all as I watched it, and I was like, this does not make sense, and I never got over that as I watched it. There was a lot of things where I'm just like, whoa, really? Oh, dang, what? Oh my God, how is this happening? But I just, for some reason in the back of my head, I just never bought it as being a real thing that I was watching. And because of that, I couldn't sit and sink in and play with the story and really care about the chief firefighter guy and the lead woman, all together. Like I just didn't. I just was too confused at what was going on. And obviously there was one inciting incident at the beginning of the film, which make the context of that scene makes sense. I understood what was happening. I understood the reaction she had and the result that came out of that. There is a similar situation that's, we'll just call it multiplied by 4, where I don't understand the inciting incident at all, other than a fetish for ears.
Sure.
and it was like, I was like, man, what the hell just happened? Okay, now this is happening, and this is the way you're going to try to get out of that situation. And it was really hard for me to spend that first 45 minutes buying what I am watching and the logical progression the character is going on, that by the time people started settling in, it never fully brought me back. It just kind of was like, man, this is so out there, and it's spending a lot of time with like the body horror element. And I just spent the whole movie shaking my head and making a face. And then I ate dinner as soon as it ended.
Yeah, first of all, I think we have to do a spoiler section for this movie, not in a, like, we're going to go beat by beat through what happens, but just so we can openly discuss what the movie does. Because I, for one, didn't know anything about this movie other than Titane, cars, body horror, the end. I knew nothing about the premise at all. So everything this movie does after the first 5 minutes, and certainly after the first 30 minutes, was a complete shock to me. And I think it would be worth exploring that in a spoilery place. Yeah. I guess what I would say to you is, it is completely unbelievable. And what is interesting to me is only Vincent, the fire captain, even seems to believe this. And it becomes clear by the end that his belief is a intentional choice in spite of the evidence, rather than being fooled by something. So I don't know what that means, but I think in the universe of the movie, that is true.
So I get that about the fireman, but I don't think so. The other people around them don't believe that she is his son. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they believe more than that. Like, I think she is pulling off being somebody, but they just think that, this is some, I nobody is saying, I think that's somebody who's just wrapped their body and they're hiding, right? Mm. And
I see. I don't know if the other firefighters, I'll say for lack of a better word, gendered belief about this person is clear one way or another. So if you're talking about the specific logistics of that part, maybe, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, they're like.
I mean, like, so an
now
interesting
we're in that
thing,
place where I want to say it because we're not in spoilers, but I want it to be clear for people who aren't going to listen to spoilers exactly what I'm trying. There is something specific she is trying to hide,
right?
Which seems impossible.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about breasts.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of this movie is clearly about dysphoria, like body dysphoria. You are alluding to parts of it that we can't fully describe in a non-spoiler section. And that is one of those places where I don't... The horrific tone and the desire to make you feel uncomfortable almost feels at odds with part of what it is trying to do. Like there's a scene where Alexia is dancing with firefighters, and it like the nature of dancing changes, and people see this person in a different light. And I believe the movie wants that to be us recognizing the gender-bending nature of all things and how fragile this idea of like the masculine or the feminine is. I think what the camera does is wants us to feel very uncomfortable with the dancing. Like, and that, it's weird because they seem like competing goals. Like, I think the movie wants to embrace the fluidity of things, and the way the movie chooses to use body horror to express it makes it feel like it is pushing us. It is calling a thing horrific that isn't horrific. And I think in general, when horror deals with real concepts, I don't get that. Is like, where does the line between you want me to be shocked, but is it bad that you want me to be shocked?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of couldn't wrestle with that. Did you watch what was that? Border, the movie that Julius wanted us to review years ago. No. I feel like this exists in a similar plane as Border, in that it is doing something very provocative and interesting about identity, and it is trying to disgust you, but then also kind of trying to say that like everything is disgusting, therefore this is beautiful. And I don't know. I think it would make an interesting comparison.
Yeah,
if we could finally watch it.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's I feel like this film, before it wants to start talking about those things, it sort of starts with a child being in an accident that's a pretty severe accident. Mm-hmm. Having to have like the halo and everything to keep her head straight, and then the first thing she does when she gets out of the hospital is like just rub up against a car, like she already has like this sexual fascination with metal. And for me, I don't know if all those metaphors it's playing with by the end of the movie are existing in this moment too, or if this is just a super French I have no idea about whatever, right? Like it's kind of like I have to get through so much, and maybe that's the thing it's trying to do, right? Like it is trying to put you down one direction and then do a turn at the end and make you think differently about everything you've watched. But I have spent so much of the runtime just thinking about the mechanics, literal mechanics of what it's doing.
Which are physically unbelievable, not only because the world this exists in couldn't exist, but literally like how things are compressed. Anyway, I get what you're saying. So that's the thing. I don't know how the core publicly known premise of this movie involving cars relates to the blurring of identities, both like gender identity, but also who are you, who is your family, who do you relate to, what do you choose to believe about each other and why. I don't know how those connect, other than this being a very kind of trippy journey through discomforting scenes of bodies behaving in ways we don't expect. Like, I don't get the theme that connects all those things.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't get them when there's another thing we haven't even talked about at all because would require spoilers, which is the fixation on ears and the things that this person does multiple times regarding that, and where that puts our view of her. It is just a very strange, intentionally strange movie. I
mean, yeah, like there is, you know, we're theoretically on her side the first time she deploys chopsticks. The second time, I wasn't.
No, we are not supposed to.
I didn't even know if I missed a line of dialogue or something, or if it was just like a reflex that happened. And I was like, all right. And then as that spirals off, you know, it becomes like for 5 minutes, it is like a Coen Brothers film. where somebody is in a situation that causes them to make bad decisions. But then the way those bad decisions spiral onwards, like what happens at that location, what happens at her home when she gets home, and like just moving forward, it's kind of like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, this is not a person making logical decisions. This is not a person making decisions in a sudden panic. This is somebody who is just fucked up, and I guess that's what we're watching. So we can get to it in spoilers.
Let's just talk about that in spoilers.
Yeah. Cool. Well, should we do verdicts, pre-spoiler verdicts?
Sure.
All right. Stephen Miller, if you were going to give us a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I am padded by question marks on all sides. I'm giving this a recommend with a caveat. I think this movie, no one else would have ever made this movie. I don't know how anyone comes up with this movie. It is striking, and if its goal is to provoke, I think it does it extremely well. But I don't know what it builds to beyond provocation. And I don't like horror movies because they make me scared, and unless they build towards a thing that makes me think and overcomes the scaredness. And I think for being made uncomfortable and grossed out and all of those things, I also want to have some kind of through line that makes me understand why I am feeling it. And caveat is, I don't think whatever this movie means is not obvious enough to justify the cringe unless you want to just feel uncomfortable. And I think, like, I have to praise the achievement of it. I think the colors, the visuals, there's so much very memorable and very interesting here. Like, I watched Titane at this point probably 4 weeks ago, and I remember it better than Dune, which I watched like 3 days ago. It is a great achievement. Caveat, I don't know why it is, and I cannot guarantee it will be anybody's cup of tea, because it is its own unique animal, and you are just along for the ride.
Yeah. I am going to give it a wait for rental. There are lots of people who are going to love this movie. There's lots of people that do love this movie. It didn't really work for me, but it's visually striking. It's psychologically striking. This film is doing a lot. I think it's executing on what it wants to do. I'm not necessarily a fan of what it's doing, but it does it real good. Yeah. So I will give it a wait for rental. To really talk about this film, we'll have to do spoilers. So for everybody who's not going to stick around for spoilers, go watch the film, I guess. And we'll close this out for you right now. So Stephen, if those people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so in Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Titane, so hopefully you were enjoying that. And that's it for the non-spoiler segment. The music that's playing right now is going to fade up, and when that music fades out, we're going to be back in full-blown spoilers. So unless you want, centrifugal force to throw your head against a window. Sit down in your seat and don't take your seatbelt off because spoilers are coming right at you. All right, we're back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of our review for Titane. We are talking full-blown spoilers, so watch out. Here they come. Where do you want to start us off, Stephen?
So, okay, the thing we managed to not say at all in the review is Alexia is a serial killer. Like, I believe that is clear in the text of the film. Like, the first time we watch her kill, it is justified. But not only do we then watch her kill many people in a, like, Kingsman in the church type scene of, like, a murder spree in the middle of an orgy, we also, I believe, are meant to think that was not the first time she has done this. She has just been killing people. That something about who she is, something about the accident, I don't know, has turned her into someone that murders people.
Yeah, like, you don't carry a chopstick 24/7. Yeah. Unless you want to use it to chopstick people to death.
Yeah, like she murders people who get close to her. Maybe that is the through line. I can't tell.
I mean, but, so you referred to the act in that house as an orgy. I believe she thought they were the only two people in that house. That's the way I interpreted it. And after she kills the one person, somebody starts coming down the stairs and she goes, oh shit, I guess I got to kill that person. And then there's somebody at the top of the stairs and she's like, oh shit, I guess I got to kill that person. And then there's somebody in one of the rooms and she goes, well, shit, there's been a lot of killing. I can't leave any witnesses. I guess I'll kill this person too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for one thing, in the theater, there were roars of laughter during that scene, which again started to make me question what kind of movie I was watching, because it is matching all the buttons of what you could feel. And what is strange, so even leading up to that, she has shown strange things on the border of sadism and pleasure, right? Like, she is kissing this person, Justine, I think her name is, and she starts to, like, suck on her nipple, and it becomes like biting and pulling until it hurts really badly. Yeah. And that's when things sour. And she has this, like, relationship with bodies that makes sex and violence be related to each other. And I think there are some lingering stares early in this movie that make us at least believe perhaps her father and her did not have a great relationship, and that somehow also imbued this, but we don't know. Like, we aren't told what is going on with this person. But she isn't someone we relate to. That's kind of like the fundamental thing. She is not someone we look at as a hero and we're like, oh my God, how is she going to get out of this okay? I think we are distanced from her immediately in the movie, and what we follow is, like, more like under the skin of, like, what is this being doing rather than let me relate to them and imagine why they do the things they do.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question about the father relationship, because, like, she's not a child, right?
Right.
If there was some tenseness between her and her father, I would expect that she wouldn't live at home. And it's weird that she is still, like, it feels like my assumption was that they couldn't have, like, they have a begrudging relationship, but I feel like the father almost killed her in the car, even though it was her fault. And that he is sort of like a lifelong have to watch out for her because I almost killed her. It's like a begrudging caretaker role, but I didn't necessarily interpret it as something super fucked up between them.
Yeah, but I mean, it isn't said, and it might not be there. I feel like when she is a young girl at the beginning of the movie, her behavior there could be based on something having already harmed her relationship to things in some way. And
she's this person now in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. But this, like, Alexia, as we meet her as an adult, is kind of someone who has been emotionally stunted by the accident and potentially things that had happened in her life before the accident.
Yeah.
I don't know what that all means, but like this character is not a full-fledged person.
Yeah.
And I think to watch the movie wanting her to be would be frustrating over and over and over again because her actions don't make sense. Like one example. So, okay. She's like a serial killer. She burns her house down. She goes on the run. She has this thing that is not very believable, but is brutal to watch, of like beating her nose in until she is like unrecognizable and can pass as this missing boy.
Yeah.
And for a while, it is like a kind of horrific, like she is pretending to be this boy in this poor grieving man's house, and he seems like he might be abusive. Like he is like powerful. He's taken steroids. He is afraid of losing his son again. And so Vincent is like trapping her. And it seems like this is going to be, she is going to escape and kill this dude. And then again, the movie like zigs where you think it's going to zag, and she feels for him and they become a begrudging family. Like there's things that she does repeatedly that don't make sense if you want her to behave in a predictable, why would this character do this way?
Yeah. But that's the thing is like, so this film feels like this film feels like it's doing three different films at once, right? Because let's imagine she's assaulted by this guy in the parking lot. She does kill him as she's trying to like drag him away from her car. A cop comes around in the corner. She goes, oh shit. She goes into hiding. She assumes the identity of this boy, has to figure out how to work there, realizes the man is troubled. Like that is one story, you know, minus the inciting incident, like, you know, pretty traditional story. Like that's kind of what it's doing. Then there's this weird, like other stylized horror movie where she fucks a car, gets knocked up by a car, and then gives birth to a half car, half baby human child. That could be its own film, and all the body horror stuff that can come along with that could be its own thing. When you wrap these two things around each other, it feels like they cancel each other out at moments where you're like, I don't know about, well, this is weird. How is this happening? Like it becomes like, it's hard for me to mix those together. And then like making her just a straight up serial killer. Like it feels a lot like, so you were talking about, I forget, you can fix my, I won't try to quote you, but I'll just paraphrase. You just talked about like the way she was before her accident was maybe some sort of indication of some other trauma before that moment that led her to be a little demon child before the accident, right? Yeah. I kind of watched this film and see that like when she came out of the accident, she just thought she was invincible. And because she has metal plates in her head, she just feels like she is different than everyone else. She is like she's like a superhero now, right? Or a supervillain, I should say, because she goes on these killing sprees. So it's like I feel like she sees other people around her as weaker than her, and she's willing to release them of their bodily sort of.
You could even say her way of killing them is like trying to find someone like her, right? Like she's like putting this chopstick in their ear, and they don't have titanium in their head. All they have is goop. That like hot fizzy. Ugh.
Did you Google if that happens when you shank somebody in the ear hole?
I didn't want the FBI to descend on my house.
It just reminds me of Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. The guy's like, I'll throw this chopstick in your ears. Like, you know what happens when you do that? Anyways.
So okay, the other thing you talked about is she is pregnant and she's giving birth to a car. And throughout the movie, though not linearly, like I would say like when she is on the run, her pregnancy gets pretty large. Like already when she's pretending to be Adrian, the first time she tapes herself up, it looks painful. It looks like, wow, you are really having to squeeze that pregnant belly into this wrap. And then it gets worse and worse over the course of the movie. Less and less believable that she could possibly do that. But there was something very like searing or like visually compelling about the pain of that and like how brutal it is. And that felt like, I don't know if it was like about pregnancy and how like we're all under the hood going through this like grotesque thing, like life is a circle of like pain. But it was very jarring, especially by the end of the movie when she is like leaking oil and crawls into bed with Vincent. Like I think the end of this movie is fantastic. Actually, I forgot to say that in my review. I don't know what it means, but the strange alliance that they form where he accepts her for whatever or whoever she is, and they have this kind of desperate thing together before she dies. Like I thought that was a like very, very striking ending. But again, I don't know why the pregnancy. I don't know why any of this. But
I think
stuck with me.
I think for me, it's a combination of the fact that she is able to just strap down. So first of all, like, because after the first however long it's been, she is like pregnant. She's not like beer gut. I might be pregnant. I might not be pregnant. She is so pregnant. And I don't know if you can just strap that down and hide it. That wasn't believable to me. But on top of that, how is she still carrying this baby to term if she's constantly doing things like that?
Well,
like,
the baby is half car.
Well, yeah. But I mean, we don't 100% like. I watched most of this movie assuming that was her visualization of, like, I was not fully on board for the baby to come out being titanium, right? Like I'm watching something where I'm watching a person's interpretation of what it feels like to be going through this pregnancy, not a literal thing that is happening.
Got it. Yeah.
So for me, it's like this, like we watch her try to give herself an abortion with the chopsticks earlier on. Obviously that doesn't take, she's still pregnant. But I think for me, I kept thinking like, there's no way you can just hide the baby like that, just strap it down that hard. But then on top of that, she keeps getting put in situations that would also hurt the baby. Like there's the part where Vincent picks her up and throws her over the shoulders and is like dancing around with her, and she's laying right on the stomach. And I'm like, A, how's the baby handling this? B, how are you handling this? C, how does he not realize that, like, he would feel that difference, right? Like if somebody comes up behind you and like presses their stomach against you, you know exactly what they're doing because you can feel that difference. And I think that like there's like, I thought in that moment that she would like her water was going to break or something, like when he shoved her on top of his shoulders and was dancing around and everybody would be like, ew, you peed yourself. And then she'd be like, just kidding, I'm having a baby. But it was just super, there was too much stuff where I was like, the logistics of this don't work out. Like I'm doing the math over here and I feel confused, and it just didn't allow me to really dive into what was going on.
So is there, because you brought up a few interesting things, is there a read of this movie where this is all her fairy tale Pan's Labyrinth version of reality as funneled through her violent fixations and understanding of cars, where what really happened is she was assaulted that night by the guy that we watch her kill with a chopstick and then have sex with a car. She is pregnant. She tries to, have a relationship with someone. She tries to live a normal life, but she is outcast. And then there's some kind of realization that she doesn't belong in this body and that she may be like there could be a reading of this movie where it is about coming to terms with like a birth that you didn't want and what it means to be in a body that you don't feel at home in. And I don't know if the whole movie would work in that way, but I haven't thought of that until right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to interpret things because Yeah, it's too much for me to grasp, and I don't, and it's hard to know what it's really about because it can work on so many different levels. Because on the one hand, she is like, it's very possible that the reason why she dances at these car shows is to be sexual with the car,
right?
And she's just annoyed that all these men are obsessed with her. Because she's not doing this dancing for them. She's doing it for the car that she wants to be close to. And if that's all the case, then the pregnancy, if it's real from somebody else she encountered with, it's somebody she had an encounter with before the movie ever started, and we never see that. So we're either watching a literal car baby being born, or the film is starting like media res after she has had a boyfriend that she's split up from, where it's like
no, what I'm saying is if the murders are a flight of fancy and what really happened is she didn't stop that guy.
Oh, okay, that's what you're saying. Or if so she did in the house what she wanted to do in the car but didn't.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I believe that's what the movie is doing, but I think it would be interesting to go through the plot thinking that way and wondering how it holds up.
Yeah. That is an interesting potential potential reality to what this film is trying to do.
Yeah. But I don't know. I honestly believe the director doesn't want us to know. I think it being jarring and provocative and making you pull 1,000 different meanings from it is what she wanted, which...
Yeah, because it is interesting because the context for how she has sex with the car is having just survived the assault. She goes in and showers, and then while showering, she is called to the car.
Yeah,
and has this.
It's almost like she's like reclaiming the story.
That is very, very interesting.
Guess we'll have to watch it again.
I don't know if there's enough pizza to make it through. So the burning of her parents. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she goes home, and she is just burning the clothes that have the evidence on it.
Yeah,
that fire sort of gets out of control, and she is in awe of like the destructive power of fire. And oddly enough, it seems like the garage is already flame retardant or something. Right? Doesn't it look like, if you watch like Conspiracy Theory, right? Like Mel Gibson's apartment is like all foil so that it can burn just the apartment and not the rest of the building. It looks like the garage is set like that, but obviously it's not because the house burns down. But do you think she is trying to kill her parents, or do you think she just wants people to be burned up in the house so that there'd be plausible to assume that she was also burned up in the house? Like, is she trying to kill her past, or is she trying to just fuck over her parents?
I think, again, caveat, it's hard to know what she wants because she doesn't behave as a character with wants and actions that follow them all the time. I think... Yeah, I think she is trying to kill her past, basically. And that means burning down the house, including the people in it. I don't know if it's a personal vendetta against her parents or just the means to an end, but that was my understanding.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Any last parts of this movie that you want to hit, Stephen, before we round it out?
No. It's a weird movie.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to transition from a really fucked up movie to a movie that's not fucked up at all called Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
So we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.